This is a very important conversation about hitting with Zen Penny. Anderson Miller here. We're both major league, high school, college hitting consultants. Right, we work with hitters at every level of the game. We usually have this conversation every week, a couple hours at a time usually. This time we're sharing it with you guys. Right, if you're watching this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. But also just want to give context behind this video, which I've talked about is the most important part of hitting, period. This is our first time actually hanging out. We've connected just through our, talking about the game. Decided to meet here in Boston. It is currently May 17th. So yesterday we watched Chris Sale versus Garrett Crochet in person, great seats, Fenway, best atmosphere you could ask for in baseball. And now, we're gonna have a conversation just about hitting, and hopefully this video will help hitters, coaches, players, anybody that just wants to learn more about what this is. We're obsessed with it. We eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, right? It literally is our life's work. I think we both say that, helping hitters is our life's work. This is no different. This is a first take, one take, raw, authentic conversation where we're just gonna get into what we see, answer some questions that you guys sent in as well, and just talk about things. But Zen, what do you got so far?
Yeah, I think Fenway's been awesome, unbelievable. Just the fact that we were there, we got to go on field, just take it all in. It was unbelievable. So be here, talk shop.
Go to BP today.
BP today. Yeah, I just think that this whole thing is, it's been really cool. And we didn't plan it out that much.
No, there was no thought of they're going to drop the City Connect jerseys and then Crochet and Sailor pitching. We didn't plan all this stuff out.
Kind of lined up.
But also,
like a month, maybe.
Yeah,
a few weeks.
A month or so ago, we're like, man, we should take a trip and just go somewhere. Fenway lined up, and then also the fact that I think that there's no such thing as coincidence. And me and you both personally are focused on helping hitters get prepared to succeed in the big leagues. So, the way this thing's kind of lining up and some of the conversations we've had in the first day, some of the things we saw predicted yesterday, Ref Snyder homer, Duran triple, Duran back up the box against Sale, and then some of the moves that we saw that didn't play, which we'll get into because there's a lot of things that are going on in the game right now that don't play.
Yeah.
A lot of guys chasing bat speed, a lot of guys out, around, and across the ball, a lot of bad posture with the upper body, and a lot of guys that are treading water at the big league level. One of the questions that came in earlier was, how do those guys in the big leagues look so smooth and under control? And the truth is, not all of those guys look like that. It's
not all of them. Not all of them are that right now. I mean, I think I see a lot of long, draggy moves, that slow, long swings that, velocity is chewing up. So, and they're having to cheat, and when they do make contact, their direction is so off the ball. So, I think that just because you have bat speed doesn't mean you're gonna automatically do damage. And I think that is, like we were talking about with Freeman and Arenado. Freeman's average exit velocity is much higher than Arenado's right now, but he's got lower bat speed. He's got lower bat speed, and he's hitting the ball. His peak is 4 mile an hour harder, but his average is 6 mile an hour harder. But he's got lower bat speed, so I'm cool with bat speed. But just saying that you have to have a high bat speed and that guarantees damage, that's just not true. So I think that, point is right there, he's hitting the ball. He's got 2 to 3 mile an hour slower bat speed, but he's hitting the ball much harder on average and peak than a guy with higher bat speed. So that kind of debunks a lot of the narratives that are being pushed right now. And I think compressing the ball, bracing at impact, getting into the ground the right way, and all those things is what generates exit velo. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, here's the truth. Both of us do train bat speed. It's all about the how. Yes. Made a video of that already. Going to keep diving into that because that's the buzzword right now.
I watched that, by the way.
Thank you. Bat speed, exit velo, right? We want swing speed. We want bat speed. We think that leads to more success, and that's not always true. The juice is not always worth the squeeze, and it's all about how. And something that I have found to be fairly effective from my side of the game. Again, the context here is I'm trying to prepare guys for 7 o'clock in the major leagues. I don't care about high school success. I don't care about college success. My thought is if I push the hitter, no matter what age, to be prepared to compete against major league pitching, that's going to have them ready to dominate everything else. I think a lot of people are focused on getting away with things, but they don't understand the true low margin for error at the top. Because we watched it last night. Some of the best hitters in the lineup got 1-2 pitches to hit, and if they missed, they're 0 for 3, right? Along with maybe quality contact, out. But the bigger thing there is that quality of contact is much more important than just the speed and the metrics behind the contact. Because if the swing axis is off or it's across instead of through, north, out through the ball, whatever you want to call it, whether you're
Super Jones swing north.
Yeah, right. You're driving through contact, you're hitting through contact. If it's across the ball, you've already set yourself up for failure. And inconsistent barrels, right, and something that we both are consistently chasing in the cage is forcing hitters to master angles and backspin the ball, because we know backspin plays, right? And it's not necessarily like sold out going for homers. It's especially with what these guys are up against. Again, the context, I'm going to go back to that and hammer that, because that's number one. Because your A swing is not your A swing because it's not set on a tee. This isn't golf. There are concepts that go into the swing that are golf, but
it's reactionary.
And the truth is that hitting is an open and closed skill. You have to master the mechanical side, and that's where hammering angles with a good external target comes into play. And then you have to switch gears completely and go into plan and approach versus the test, which could be low 3/4 slot guy. You could have a guy that's really spinning the ball well. He's living low in the zone, so you've got to raise the floor. You've got a guy that's really throwing, got good vert, got good metrics, and you take that information, he's tunneling pitches.
Low release.
Low release, you got these guys that the ball's, perceived velocity is way up, and we talk about that a lot. But the feel maybe you need to swing 5 balls above this, 3 balls above this. You need to set yourself up with posture above whatever his best fastball is, because if not, you're under. You're under.
No chance.
And what's the number one miss you see right now?
Yeah, I would say it's underneath and across the ball.
And contact point wise, what would you say?
Super deep.
Too deep, under,
deep, yeah.
And because of how things are set up, as soon as they get there, the hands get pushy, and because the hands have basically had to break up the sequence, then it's just rip across the ball and doesn't play.
Super cross and then under, and I would say that body flying off, causing the barrel to be dragging, or if they do get it out in front, it's a snap hook across.
Right.
But then, I would say that part of that comes to the vertical approach angle of the work that you do. If all you do is you do a flip, which is, -12, -14 vertical approach angle, you do RMBP, which -11, -12, depending on the height of the platform. If it's
a firm BP, right, distance, all those things.
Even if it's flat, it's still probably best -10 vertical approach angle. And all that means is, I'm not trying to sound just saying that look at me how smart I am. It's
just literally providing context to why guys are missing under.
Yeah, it's just data. But for simple terms, for people that kind of don't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Basically, all that means is the ball is coming like this. It's coming super down. And then a big league fastball, that's a good fastball, is -5 vertical approach angle. So you got to think about it. If all your work is you did flips, which is -13, -14, say you have a really firm flip, it's like -12. Then you do BP, which is the same, if not, about the same. -10 at best. And then you go hit a game fastball. Say you're underneath, you're missing under on flips, and you're missing under on BP, meaning not a missile with backspin that's hard flushed.
Yes.
Meaning under hitting the top of the cage, that is going to be
skied, overspun, sliced, hooked, whatever you want to call it, right?
When you do in-game, when you face an in-game fastball, say it's -5 vertical approach angle, you're going to have no chance. You're going to be so under that you got no chance. You got to be above the ball, like we've talked about upshoot, we've talked about right at the top. Like above the ball and then hold your angles through it. So, because a lot of people are doing the upshoot, but when they do the upshoot, it is get above and across.
Yep.
No posture like we've talked about.
Yep. Posture's everything.
Yes. So when you do the upshoot, yes, do it at the top, but your chest has to be down over the plate, and then you hold the position to continue through it. And that's how you create the good ball flight and that we want.
Yes, and something that I've tried to get relayed to hitters, because sometimes they can think posture means, oh, I have holes at the top now because I feel hunched over. But the truth is most guys are just straight up and down. And as I've talked about before in another video, when you're straight up and down, the swing's working like a ring around Saturn, right? It's an axis around you. The minute that you're standing straight up and down, you're used to everything being across. And most hitters, none of us as human beings have ability to perceive reality as we feel it, feel versus real. So when I say, hey, get posture over the plate, they feel like they're in the other batter's box.
Yeah.
And then the truth is, if they can just trust that they just stay there and get this ball at the top, because all good things, again, preparing major league hitters, you have to win versus the fastball at the top. You open the rest. Specifically, not just the top, but also like middle in, right? And that doesn't mean that you sell out for that approach in the game, because it's more so...
Then you could be cheating off the ball.
You're cheating, right? It's all about knowing that you can make that happen, and then figuring out what you need to make that happen in the game, right? To create the maximum adjustability, and then have a swing that you feel like, even if you're a little late, but because you're focused on getting square out in front and having body position right and holding posture, really focused on hitting through the ball.
And your head's down.
Heads down, eyes down, all these different things, all of the work, because you didn't undertrain, you set yourself up to get in game and be on barrel consistently. And when we talk about what you said previously about two different guys that have similar bat speed numbers, but the max exit velocities are different.
Way different.
6 miles an hour is monumental gap, Grand Canyon size gap when it comes to the average over, 200 at bats. And obviously this could change if one of those guys ends up, working with somebody or continues to get better, right? Those things can always change through the season, but the reason that's happening is because one swing is working around the hitter, which leads to being able to hit balls deep, flush, or get fooled out in front and still be on.
Around the hitter, but this way.
Around the hitter, but through the ball. Yeah. The other one is a very small amount have to be perfect, have to get the right pitch, and then across the ball. Collision versus compression, right? And there's such a big difference. And when we talk about how to develop a hitter, right, you have to be focused on that consistent compression, that consistent backspin, because
bracing,
all of those things, like having... Well, first, you can't do that if you don't brace. We were talking about it at lunch today, right?
Be bracing.
If the body is going with the barrel, right? If the body's not being a brick wall at contact to actually allow the barrel to accelerate, right? As I was saying,
slingshot forward.
It's like a car. It's like a car going into a red light, right? You would never, if you've ever been driving, you slam on the brakes. Everybody in the car flies forward, right? Because you're creating force, and then everything else accelerates off of that. I don't have the scientific term for that. I'm not a scientist. I just care about hitting.
Crack the whip.
Yeah, right. If you just go like this with a whip, you never get the whoosh. But if it's and you stop the hand, that force transfers up through the whip, through the end of the, and actually cracks it. But compare that to a car that's at a yellow light and they just kind of ease into it. Well, everybody just kind of eases into it, and then hitters wonder why I'm not hitting the ball as hard as I can. Well, you're not impacting. You're not in the ground. You're not impacting the ball, and you're not allowing force to properly transfer up through the ground, up through your body,
just shoot back up through the chain,
and through the ball, and ultimately through the ball, right? But like most people watching this may be focused on really trying to develop bat speed. At the time of us recording this, it's May 17th, 2025. A lot of game plans for programs, for organizations, for hitters, for individuals is I need to get my bat speed up. I need to continue to hammer bat speed, and they may be going into a summer where they may be setting themselves up for more failure. Now, I want to talk about this because they lose the accuracy, and I want to talk about the fact that there's a way to build into and have them work together instead of against each other, because what happens when you're doing overload, underspeed work and also impacting the ball, is you have to do that in a way that ends up throwing off the moves that you would use in the game. It's not the same move, and if you take those moves into a game, as we see every single day with the hitters that we work with at every level, it doesn't play.
Yeah,
The guys that focus on really they warm up the engine, they build the brakes. You handle the prep work. You spend time really getting the CNS going. Central nervous system is what that stands for.
It's how you do it.
It's how you do it, right? You teach, you talk, you give the hitter context. Again, that's like number one thing in life. I feel like how to brace at contact, what you should feel, why, and then they can trust the moves and just go hit. And there's no
and not sacrificing your bat to ball skills
at all.
Not hitting a moving ball when doing your speed training.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
engine building, whatever you want to call it.
Engine building,
Bat
whatever.
speed.
Yeah, I think like for me, we build the engine before we hit any balls every single session.
Yes, gotta happen.
But it's returns, or a stick. But when we're doing it, it is still working on the braking system, basically just meaning deceleration system.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do 5 recoils back and forth, focus on returning it fast, and when you focus on returning it fast, you're getting them down into the ground. They're having to focus on still decelerating, and they're still working on moving fast. But the problem is people are saying move it fast, and then when you try to move it as fast as you can, then you're still building a swing that is basically called like turning left, like to the dugout, because you're trying to swing as fast as you can, and then you're building this that's going off the ball, and then you're not gonna have any posture.
And the minute that you make that move, like you don't
gonna be dragging.
You don't make that ground back up, because then the barrel lags out behind you, and then it ends up, because of the weight of it, it ends up getting away from your body, and that leads you susceptible to spin, to velo, pretty much anything that's not like something slow out over the plate. And as we just watched,
Velo's gonna cook you.
You don't you're just not gonna play. It's not gonna play.
Slow, long swing, because as soon as I want to go over this. Like, as soon as you engage this to swing swing it really fast. As soon as you engage that front shoulder to swing it really fast, when this happens, my barrel is still back here. So it just takes forever to get out.
And it's also under.
And it's going to be under. So I think the thing is people say that you could have certain parts of the year for bat speed. It's not going to help you. It's not going to cause you to lose your bat to ball skills. And that's completely not true. There is a long list of big leaguers right now have gained bat speed, got worse, or they chased bat speed and they lost their bat to ball skills.
And as I said,
that's what the internet's not telling you, by the way.
Yes.
Nobody else is saying that, because they would rather.
We're here to tell the truth.
We're here to tell the truth, and people aren't going to say those things because it is a little confrontational. But I'm going to say what's going to help people. And
again, it all depends on the goal, and not everyone's goal is preparing hitters to have a successful, long major league career where they don't have to rely on a hitting coach. They can get traded. They can be facing a lefty, facing a righty, and always be competent for the test. That's not everyone's goal.
They got fed false data too.
Yes.
False data. They were side spinning balls in the side net, saying that they were homers, which is not true. I'm so tired of that. That is getting pushed on people for results to feed people's ego about how they're getting better when they're not actually getting better.
Correct. And when we talk about
bat ball spin,
when we talk about this, there's a couple different aspects. I'm going to try to lay this out properly.
It's usually like 2 a.m. we're sending stuff together.
Yes, because he's on Arizona time. I'm on Easter time. I live in Kentucky. He lives in Arizona. But there is 2 different aspects to this. So gamification, right? It's the same reason that kids like video games. It's the same. It makes learning fun, but it's also not useful data when the data isn't accurate. And what do I mean by that? There are some pieces of equipment that cost a lot of money, so people think that they're really helpful. I don't feel like naming them. I don't think it's worth it. But basically, there's some data that's in a lot of cages that doesn't account for the spin axis of the ball. And what I'm talking about is how the ball's spinning, right? What backspin is a pure 100% backspun ball would be like 12:30 hands on a clock, right? So that would lead to the ball continuing to go out depending on the contact point. That ball's going to spin true.
And you also don't want to cut it.
Correct.
Like that's
correct.
Good context, guys.
Right. It's out here and then through, which creates the backspin, right?
Some of the old heads teaching
right.
the seatbelt swing.
Yeah,
swing
that leads to cut up and straight down into the ground.
You backspun it, but you're so far down on the ball, you're cutting it and popping it up. Right.
And, here's the thing.
That's not the good backspin.
The guys that do talk about it like that also had their body position set up. And when you have the body position correct, it does feel like you're very, straight down, direct to the ball, which...
The chest is down.
But because of the spine angle, you've created the ball flight instead of manipulating the hands to create the ball flight, which that's where a lot of hitters get in trouble and they're chasing that, but really they're just in bad positions. But when we talk about not accounting for spin, your exit velo and the distance ultimately of the ball is severely either affected or impacted when the spin is not backspin, right? If the ball is top spinning, it's going to be picking up speed as it's spinning and going down into the ground. If it has side spin, it is going to be slicing this way and it's going to end up fizzling out, which ends up leading to less distance. But there is some technology that doesn't account for this. So it just registers the exit velocity of the ball and then makes a projection of the distance. And the projections are usually wrong. And what that leads to, again, this is an important conversation because we're talking about major league hitting, right? Not developing 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, the youth level where they may need to be gamified to engage the mind.
Know
right?
Your audience.
Right. You have to know your audience. We're focused on developing the top and it hitting the levels down. But what happens is this leads to hitters going to spring or getting into mid-May, which now they're starting to stack up some at bats. And because this information was telling them false, fake positive results, right? It made them feel like their moves were good, and now they're starting to unravel, and now they're searching for answers because they didn't build up the foundational blocks the right way, which is what both of us do that may be pretty counterintuitive, and maybe at some point, like in the future, we end up implementing some sort of technology in the cage. Both of us are what I consider, which is why we're ended up hanging out here and why we really get along, I think, is we are merging the old school mindset and the grit and the old school approach to the game and what matters, and the guys, the OGs that really got after it.
Back of the net line drives.
Yeah, those guys
Head down.
With the ability to navigate new school information. And we don't use technology in our cages, meaning there is no ball flight tracker, there is no bat speed tracker, there is no swing speed, any of those things. We do use machines, which we'll talk about. We use hack attacks. I use the mini hack attack on the extreme long legs to really exaggerate and get extreme with the vertical approach angle, which he was talking about earlier, which forces the hitters, and I usually segment my training sessions this way, and he does a good job too, because we'll talk about the differences between what a hitter needs as far as being able to cover the top with that vert and being able to match that plane without being under, and then the upshoot. But both of us really put an emphasis on training dirty so that these guys can hit and play clean and have effortless success. And the only way to do that is to make spin a priority and backspin. That's why a lot of my stuff that I talk about on social media, on the internet, is all focused on backspin because, again, context, I was a top 100 draft pick. There's no reason that I shouldn't have gotten at least a shot based on what I bring to the table. I'm 6'2", I was 220 when I played, could play all three outfield positions well, good defender, good bat to ball skills, did not have the ability to create consistent backspin. Moves were long, moves were stretched out, elite mover, needed to try to get my swing off in a phone booth, in a cubicle, didn't have that ability. those were the things that I found ultimately when I retired with the Dodgers, where a lot of water bag work, a lot of brick wall at contact, right? A lot of these different things where I didn't over rotate. I really just got to contact and just stayed through the ball and started to find that backspin. But too little, too late, but it's not going to waste because now we're passing it on to guys that are still in it, and it's helping them put together some career numbers and get themselves back on track. And then, you know, both of us were in constant pursuit of finding these things that we now teach, right? So it's like we're having this conversation, but
It's all I think about is...
it's all we think about. It's all I mean, literally, if we went through a call log, I mean, I don't know how many hours we spent on the phone, but there's a reason.
No, yeah, nothing else.
But it's always focused on the same stuff.
Yeah, it's... Well, I want to go back to the chase numbers in the cage. It's... The thing about it is the reason I don't just use, like, a Rapsodo...
Which is a great piece of technology, right?
I'm not knocking Rapsodo. I like Rapsodo.
Yes.
I like TrackMan. I'm cool with both of those tech options. The reason I don't do that is because you give a hitter, as soon as they know that the tech is on, anyone, I know this
it's human nature. You're gonna chase a PR.
Yes, it's human nature. I can tell you that for myself, doing it, because I failed a lot in my life. I know from playing, you're gonna chase numbers. You're gonna gear up. You're gonna tense up to hit the ball harder. Mm-hmm. And the moves get compromised. They get sloppy.
Meaning the moves as in like what you would use in game. What starts to become ingrained in your swing, right?
Yes, exactly. So anything that takes away from what we're trying to do of hold positions through the ball, that creates good ball flight, that allows us to wait longer to make good decisions, that keeps us short to the ball, all those things, it takes away from all that. Because soon as that tech becomes available in the cage and they know that it's on, anyone, it's human nature, they're going to start chasing numbers. The front side is going to be going off the ball. They're going to be raising the effort level.
Effort level is going to increase.
And that's what we're in. And when that happens, our accuracy is going to go down, and we start compromising our moves. So I always tell people they go on a. I've had to in the past fix the swing that they did to hit a PR.
Correct.
So they did swings to hit a PR.
Which looks great on social media.
Which looks great, right? But then as soon as you start games, you had that swing to hit a PR, but now we have to go train it out because in order for you to hit that PR, you built moves that are not good, that take you fly off the ball. Your effort level's way too high. You're swinging hard. Your accuracy's down. Your quality contact's down. Your barrel's dragging. Everything. So I don't do it because I know human nature. You put it in there, they're going to start swinging harder and harder. And then if you try to do that against, like you were saying, big league pitching, I would even argue pro pitching.
Yeah, even elite level college pitching, elite high school pitching as the game continues to evolve. And here's the other thing, which is why I feel like me and you are on a hell-bent mission to fix hitting. Yeah. Pitchers are going like this. Mm-hmm. Better information, better data. They have better cameras. They're more scientific with their approach to development. And hitters are going in the opposite direction, training the same, continuing to train front toss, continuing to be comfortable, and not adapting. And what it leads to...
Using tech the wrong way.
Not all data is good information, right? And that's something that we've learned the hard way. And we get quite a few hitters coming to us in the middle of a season, which is a little frustrating because it's like we've been here the entire time. Continue to be consistent with the messaging. Mm-hmm. But what it takes, and
it's not sexy.
It's not sexy. It's not as.
It's not to feed the ego.
There's no ego involved. It's actually the opposite. I call my cage the deep end. Mm-hmm. I say you guys better pack a lunch because it's gonna get ugly today. But I also segment things, right? I'm like, hey, I'm gonna prepare you. I'm gonna give you context of what's coming today, almost like a teacher
planning out a lesson plan for the semester, but for the session.
You'll do flips and stuff.
We're gonna do flips.
It's not like you're just machine.
But there are 3 phases to what, like, we're gonna prepare mentally, physically. We're gonna go through your routine to really get the close side, check that box to get the mechanics right, to get things ready.
Moving well,
moving correctly, not overcooking it.
Walk before you can run.
Honestly, I'd say crawl before you can walk.
Yeah.
Right? And then we're going to test it in a way where you have to find something that you got 1 or 2 things to focus on, right? Because if you put that groundwork in and the message is consistent from our side as the teacher, as the coach, you can give a hitter stay above the ball. And that's the relentless focus, because me and you both know when it's time for that hitter to go out of a place where they really feel confident in their moves, which I don't really love the word confidence, but I feel like a lot of times hitters work with us and the confidence goes up.
Oh yeah.
Feeling very confident.
They know they're prepared.
They're prepared, right?
They train nasty.
Nothing they see in the game is going to overwhelm them, because they've gotten swing and miss. They've seen some nasty upshoot. They've seen a really big breaker. They've hit. You know, I like to do some mixed variability with the machine where consistently raising and changing location. I make them not look, but like from that, and you found this too, they have to pick an approach, but also have like one thought, right? You've got to be on like a one-track mind when it's you versus that guy.
You're still holding the moves though.
Yes.
We're not just doing nasty training and spinning to hit the machine.
Right.
Because that's what was the point of doing all the flips T and.
Well, let me ask you this.
That's not you're spinning to hit the environment. You did your routine, but as soon as the challenge got hard, you start spinning to complete the task, and that's not it. I tell all the guys all the time, like, don't worry about the result, just hold the move.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, because they start compromising just to hit the difficult task.
Yes.
And it gets sloppy really fast, and I'm like, don't worry about the result, just do the move right. And so I see it all the time. Yeah, it's machine time, and then okay, you need to get your back elbow in, and then okay, you need to clear your hips. Okay, you need to get your hands back. Okay, you need to get out in front. You're telling them something. You told them 5 different things after 5 swings, just flooding them.
Yeah.
And I've listened to skill acquisition stuff about that. I've read all kinds of information on this. And Nick Winkleman, Winkleman's like a OG skill acquisition guy. He was like,
okay.
He's like, I need you to give me one idea.
That's it.
So for me, when I'm hitting with the guys, they know, all right, I want you to aim above the ball. I want you to hold your finish. I want you to keep your chest down. Yep. Basically, but when we're doing that, like, it's not like anytime we're doing anything, they know that's the message.
Yeah.
We keep our posture, we hold our finish.
Yeah.
Especially off the machine, we aim above it.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that because...
But it's not so internal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When it's time to compete and win, the task has to become outside of you and external, right? Whether that's target hunting, whether that's line drive off the pitcher's feet, whether that's ground ball to second base, whether that's hit it off the foul pole, whether that's see it up, whatever it is, you're giving yourself an outside of you and what you're doing task versus the ball, because that's the focus. We saw it yesterday. There's a guy, big situation, coming up, bases loaded, Fenway Park, 8th inning, 9th inning, and he's on deck trying to find the moves. And at that point, it's too late.
Completely
It's too late. It's the reason that guys don't become the player that they can become.
So yipped up.
And, I want to talk about this because both of us, pretty consistent messaging. I wouldn't say that we're like-minded people. I think we have a same goal, so that's why we resonate with each other. We live a pretty similar lifestyle, other than the fact that I have kids, but like very focused on leading from the front of the pack, being consistent with the message, backspin, stay through the ball, stay over the plate. You say
what matters?
You say stick. Well, we've just seen it. Like it creates the max room for error and the best results with the least amount of effort, and it's the most repeatable. Which, as a hitter, what else are you after, right? And if you haven't already, like and comment on anything that stood out to you.
You need repeatability.
Yes.
And if your effort level is too high, you're not going to have repeatability.
And
it's
you're
like
not going to see the ball well.
You're not going to see the ball well.
No.
It's like driving on the interstate. Say you have a souped-up car and you're going 140 miles an hour. You're not going to be as accurate moving around.
Nope.
And you're not going to see things the way you better keep it on you're not going to be able to shift around. And with hitting, you've got to be able to shift around because you don't know what's coming. And you got to be able to get hits when you're not perfectly on time, like you were mentioning earlier.
Correct.
Say it's a breaking ball with 2 strikes. Sometimes we were watching Freeman last night foul off that ball, and he caught it like super deep, but he shot it over there.
2 strikes.
2 strikes. You can't do that if you're just trying to go max speed, capacity. Just try to use the driver.
Yes, and that's the difference between swinging and hitting, right? We're in the business of developing hitters.
Yes.
That hit, right?
Yes.
And I try to make metaphors, like I know we've talked about the cars, the driving. Baseball is golf, golf is baseball. A lot of the mechanics are similar, the swing path, the directness, the hands through the ball, the eyes behind the ball, through contact with the club face, getting square. But you don't pull out a pitching wedge on a par 5, and you also don't pull out a driver 100 yards out from the hole, right? And I think sometimes people miss that. And something that I want to talk to you about is the fact that we spend a lot of time helping guys train different clubs. Mm-hmm. It's the same golf swing. It is the same swing with different effort levels, with different focal points, right? Maybe with a lower finish, maybe with a different setup, but the swing itself is the same, right? And I wanted to talk to you about this because on your social media, you're very consistent with really hammering vert, upshoot, getting guys above the ball. And what I have found also, everything's direct. What I have found is that guys that are focused on being direct versus the ball at the top, right? That are covering the upshoot, they're covering the firm, heater, whatever.
It's the most important thing.
It's the most important thing because if you're prepared to cover that and you have chest over the plate, right, focused on being through that, you also hit anything that's below that better. Mm-hmm. And the minute that we go slider machine, the minute that we go big breaker, angle, usually, angle, and
you're going to hammer it.
You're going to hammer it. And if you try to just hit that and just expect it to be down there, you're going to lead to more chase. Mm-hmm. The moves are going to be sloppy. But the minute that you have to make this move to the ball up, because this ball up requires the most efficient path, the most direct move.
Trim the fat.
You got to trim the fat from the swing, right? And this ball, and I'm saying like if it's a righty, like up, top, you have to be ready to get like to this ball and maintain angles. But everything that's good in this, every other swing that you're going to make in the swing is going to allow for more length. But if you're not consistently ready to hit this, there's length in the swing. But every other swing builds off of that. And I was curious, like, what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, I still like the third base side for righties, especially. Not as much for I do it with lefties too. I'll just move it in on the lefties. It'll be open angle for you because you're a left-handed hitter. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But especially for the righties, because as a right-handed hitter, like my whole life, arm side, you're gonna face more righties.
Yes.
Arm side, if you don't get the barrel square out in front, you're done. Like, so
not gonna have a long career.
Not gonna have a long career. So for me, I loved open angle.
Yeah.
But it was good for me, but also like it had limitations. I mean, I was good against lefties, but righties was hard for me because getting the barrel square against. So I'll still do open angle, but for right-handed hitters, and when we're doing the third base side, I'll do it in at the top. But like Anderson and we've been saying, it's not over here to get to it, because as soon as it comes here, we're gonna want to go that way, and which is gonna lead to very across the ball, very around. Mm-hmm. No, my chest is still down. I'm still trying to hit it through center field to the left corner with backspin, holding my chest down over the plate, holding my eyes down, and then holding my finishing high so that I can hold positions through the ball. And you're going to have to be way above it. So basically, effective velocity-wise, if it's up and in, that is the hardest pitch to hit.
Yes. Which, if you watch the games, right, all you have to do is watch the game. Look at how many pitches are trying to be thrown up here, because one, they're the hardest to hit, but also they look good to hitters, and especially they look good to hitters that don't have the right move to cover it, if that makes sense.
If you can cover up and in, not this way. If you can cover up and in, I'm to it, and then I hold my positions through the ball to send it through the big part of the field with backspin, holding our positions through the ball, getting the barrel square out in front, left center. Then you're set up for everything else. You're going to be way more on time for everything else. It's going to trim the fat off your swing. If they throw you away, they're doing you a favor. Majority of the time, hitters are late, and then they'll throw them a fastball away, low and away fastball, hardest exit velocity on average in the big leagues. But
Out and away over the plate.
yes,
Makes sense.
yes, because the reason that happens is because it allows, when we have length here and we're dragging our bat a little bit, you get away with it. As soon as they come hard in, that drag move gets exposed. So
There's a hole like this big,
Yes.
and it's in and it's also under your barrel, because out and around you have no adjustability with like here, because the arms are out, and then it's just across. Now I want to talk to you.
it's a long, draggy swing.
It's a long draggy swing, and I want
A swing.
It's not A swing is not the A swing. The A swing is what you need to get square to what you're up against, right? And something that we saw last night is talking about spacing versus what you're up against. We got a great angle of everything directly behind home plate at Fenway. Garrett Crochet
Unbelievable.
and Chris Sale, right? So this is two lefties that one's over here and one's over here. Crossfire behind lefties, and we saw some lefties on the Braves that were set up almost to hit a righty guy that may be like a lower slot, have no chance, right? And then also everything away looks good because they're not set up. And I want to talk to you about spacing and how it helps hitters set up to win, because what you just talked about was, covering this pitch up and in is a priority, but oftentimes that's not a great bet to place. So it's almost like, as hitters and as coaches and as players, you have to set up your mousetrap to make his executed pitch your honey hole, or what you're hunting, right? So if you're getting in the box consistently in the same spot, you're setting your feet in the same spot, you're setting yourself up to win not very much, right? Because how could I possibly, as a lefty, be facing a guy like I saw last night? Again, extreme profiles, but there are quite a few lefties that release from behind me, and I'm set up closed or I'm set up square. I have no ability to get square out in front without having to work around my body. And what we see a lot is guys get to their launch position, or the place where they're going to actually deliver their move from, and they have to they can't even, it doesn't even matter that the ball's trying to get them out. They're having to work around themselves. But if they created an open lane and then just sold out for what they're looking for, they're also going to hit the rest. But as righties,
Keeping the ball close to him.
You see the
Left
same.
on left.
You have to keep you have to keep it close to you. But then also the same thing happens with righties, where they're not giving themselves space. Or if you're a guy that does have those moves, we were talking about it last night about how do you counteract that, right? Because a lot of times in season, again, it's May 17th, so a lot of these guys are in it every day, and they've got 4 coming whether they want it or not. Some of these guys are on big payrolls, big paychecks, right? How do you counteract this? If you are a guy that's in your own way, your best bet is going to be to back off the plate.
Yes.
And really go step towards second base, because your move, if you've given yourself space, but we saw some guys last night on the dish and also making the move across and just have no room to work.
No room.
No room to work. And
Doors. Doors are across.
there are a lot of times, and
Snap.
this is what we talk about. There's a time and place to work with what you've got, and then also train the moves. So, if you're working with hitters, how do you kind of make the difference, or how do you try to find the middle of that?
You go watch the Hit King, Pete Rose, super closed, but you'll never see the Hit King, Pete Rose, on top of the plate being closed off. He was never. Dude absolutely raked, and he was never on top of the plate while being closed. So if I'm coaching, I'm saying, hey, sinker guy, back off the plate, get him out over.
Push him over. Push him out over the plate.
Yes, get him out over.
It's gonna
push
run
him
back to you.
Yes, get him out over. Push him over the plate, so you have some space. And then once he gets off the plate, that one that runs in, that's still a strike. He has more space and room to get that barrel square to be able to go through that ball and not feel like, oh, I got no chance, and now I'm around.
And also, are you telling him to push contact point out in front? Because I feel like that's what we saw is like
beat it there.
A lot of guys were late, and like you've really got to beat these balls to the spot. You got to beat the break to the spot and you've got to get this ball kind of up, because if it's not like all the with the tunneling and the
That's
bridging,
gonna be my next thing, yeah.
Right? We talk about it a lot. Like that's where pitching is making leaps and bounds on hitters, because guys spend the offseason really going deep dive on how they can bridge the effective velocity of their pitches, right? So say a guy has plus heater and plus slider, and we're watching, the Red Sox are really good at this. There's some other teams that do a good job with things, but Red Sox specifically, they do a great job bridging 4-seam fastball, 2-seam fastball, cutter, and then slider off of that. And all of those, you have to respect them because they come out of the same release height. Some move like this, some move like this. One's going up, one's going to the side, and one's staying true. Okay, before we started this conversation, I sent out an Instagram poll, and some hitters wanted us to cover some topics, so we're going to get into 5 of these or so. Just going to read these off my phone. So let's go. First one. How to develop more barrel accuracy from K-Wade 4. How do you develop more barrel accuracy? All the stuff we've talked about, right?
Yeah, everything that we hit on, I think for me, staple of holding the finish, I call it sticking the ball.
I call it stay through the ball for as long as you can.
Yeah, swinging north like you've talked about,
right.
Holding everything as far through center field as possible.
Yep.
But I would say the eyes down and head down. And then when you're holding your finish every single swing, it's going to teach you how to be connected properly, how to be under control, and you're really just you're really connected, and you're not out of control, which is going to take away the accuracy because the effort level is going to be too high. Yeah. So when you have to hold your finish and hold that position, it doesn't allow the body to fly off and all things to get a little wonky on you.
Yeah, that's good. And I would, just to piggyback on what he said and build on that, I would say be more specific about your targets that you're trying to hit externally, as we covered in this and hit on this in this video. And then also, last part on that is how to train more barrel accuracy. Don't be focused on doing more, focus on doing it again, right? Continue to repeat. A guy that we watch and study quite a bit, Alex Bregman, just had a great article with Jeff Passan, and he said this on Wednesday. Getting back to what I did in my best years, which was to focus on being the best in the cage that day, Bregman said, not worrying about if I'm hitting well on the field. More like, can I master the fucking cage today? Can I square the ball up? Can I execute the drill in the cage and then go play in the game? As opposed to, I need to go 4 for 4 tonight with 2 doubles and a homer. I'm going to be the best hitter before the game in the cage. Then I'm going to go out and just try and repeat. I'll link that article down below the video, but if you're a hitter listening to this, that's how you become a master of backspin and become your best self, and you master barrel accuracy, which if you look at the numbers, this dude's locked in right now.
That's process.
That's process over result, and the results are a byproduct of an elite process like this that's simple and focused on repeatability.
He wasn't worried about the game result.
Right.
He was worried about hammering his process before the game, and then in the game just competing. Not, I need to go 4 for 4 tonight. Like, yeah, everyone wants good results, but he's just focused on having an elite process, repeatability, and then the game competing, not worried about the result.
Yes.
Good results a byproduct.
Good results a byproduct. All right. Next question. Let's go. For hitting, talk about the importance of pre-hitting routine and a hitter's feels. From J14 Lambert.
Yeah, I think it's context dependent. It's on what the hitter needs and what their deficiencies are, what their strengths are, how are they making outs. I think the the feels of how you're going to complete the task is going to vary on the person.
100%.
And one thing that I like to do is once you put them in an environment that is trimming the fat, they get that self-discovery of the thoughts and feels that they need to think and feel to complete the task the right way. It doesn't need to be what I think about it is, or whatever. It's what they need to think to create good, clean moves that are repeatable.
100%. And something that I want to say just to tie that up is, what I say is give yourself a 1 to 2 to 3 word phrase that you can repeat until the pitch is delivered. That's going to get you to execute what you need, right? Because the feel is a lot different than the real, right? Think about the OGs, the Hall of Famers, swing down. Even some of the guys in the game now that are some of the greats, they talk about swing down. When they watch the tapes, when you run the tapes, they're most certainly not swinging down, but that's what helps them get their A swing off, right? It may be above the ball. It may be left center. It may be out front. It may be under, it may be above. Again, all of this stuff, as we've mentioned 100 times, like probably the word context, all things in life, but most importantly, all things in hitting, which is a conversation about context dependent. There are checkpoints that there are boxes that are trying to be checked, that need to be checked, again, to become a major league successful hitter. How a hitter checks those boxes is always going to be different. But great question there. Let's move on to the third question. Swinging down through the ball versus matching plane, swinging up through the zone. This question's from Waldo Walker. You got
it. Shout out Walker. We've trained together for a few months. I would say for Walker, having spent a good amount of time with him, you come so far underneath the ball that it comes up the elevator shaft, so you'll be under and lift the ball, or you're coming so far up the elevator shaft that you'll top spin it.
So I'm going to go ahead and answer this one. For that guy, in the context of the hitter, that needs to be like you're feeling like you're swinging down and through. Again, it also depends
which is what we've talked about,
which we keep going back to, but it's like it also depends on what that guy's ball is doing, because some pitchers you're going to have to feel direct but really over the plate. Some guys you're going to have to set yourself up with more like upright posture and still feel above the ball. There are two different sides of this, which is why being a good hitting teacher, a good communicator is so difficult, because it's not just what your moves are doing, which is why we're both very against side angle video, because that's only telling one side of the story. Like, I don't care what your moves are doing, because that doesn't ultimately matter when it's time for you to consistently rack up barrels. We don't care about hits. Hits come when you're consistently on barrel, consistently squaring up the ball, but like you need to be able to see what the ball is doing and what your swing is doing versus the ball, right? If you're under on fastballs, that's immediately going to cue us off of, okay, we need to dominate upshoot or top of the zone heaters, right? If you're consistently side spinning balls this way, which you could have a good move on video, but like you can't see the ball flight, okay, well, it's time to really like dominate some angle work, maybe some closed angle work, and really work on that body position and being square, beating the ball to the spot. So to answer that question, I think for me, it depends on what is all going into what your swing does. And again, what the hitter needs to
He's under.
Yeah, if you're under, it's going to like whatever you do
Yes.
naturally, you need to do the opposite, right?
He needs, like, his feel is that he's like that. And I'm like, you're under. Like, I've told him this, like, you need to feel this. Now, I don't tell everyone that, but he needs to think that, because he'll be 2 underneath flips, and that's a long swing.
Underneath flips is never a good sign, guys.
Yeah.
When you're working on flips, if you're watching this, you're trying to hit balls that are on their way up to where the cage connects and intersects in the back of the cage, right? Sometimes it may be top left corner, top right corner, but ultimately all of those balls we're trying to hit with that upward low stinger, again, back to golf, that type of ball flight, because
Through the wall.
that ends up leading to in-game adjustability, where if you catch it a little bit under, that's a homer now. If you catch it a little bit on top, that's a still really hard hit ground ball that's going to play.
That's a hit.
That's a hit. right? Okay, next question. How to handle the extreme ends of failure and success from Eli Rye 6.
Well, what we just talked about with Bregman, he's focused on the work. He's not trying to go 4 for 4. Like you heard him, he was saying, I'm not trying to go 4 for 4, 2 doubles. He's like, I'm trying to be the best hitter in my work, in my cage I can, and be repeatable. He said, repeat, repeat, repeat. Like, if you're all on the result, you're always going to be a roller coaster because, for one, this is too hard.
It's the most difficult task in sports, guys. Like,
it's too hard. You're even if you have a great plan, you have a great approach, you have a great process, you're still going to go for 4.
and you could do everything right, and that's why I'm huge on talking about you have to create your own box score, your own grading system, because you could do everything right and line out or, fly out to the track or, like,
Or just mishit it. You just mishit it.
Yeah, it's going to happen, but if you're consistently doing things the right way, you have to play the long game, right? And a lot of this stuff that me and Zen talk about is related in other areas of life. If I want to put together a summer where I'm trimming, body fat, or I want to get better at running, something that I'm in right now. I ran 6 miles today. I wasn't thinking about I need to run 6 miles. That's overwhelming. I've never ran 6 miles. What was I focused on? Getting to the next external target, getting to the next crack, getting to the next person, getting to the next milestone. And before you knew it, I found myself in flow. For hitters, you try to perfectly prepare and over prepare for the test, and then your job is to win one pitch at a time. And that eliminates the roller coaster mentally and honestly mechanically, because you're going to find yourself consistently, if we go back to what I said earlier about repeat, what Bregman said, like repeat. If you can consistently repeat a process, you can consistently be present, you can consistently go one pitch at a time and win those one pitch battles, right? You eliminate the extreme highs and lows is what I would say, which ultimately, something that I have started to discover, that's success. Success is having the same swing for an entire season. Success is going up there and trusting your work and committing to being above the ball for 3 at-bats tonight, or consistently focused on I'm trying to be ready for his best fastball out in front for 4 at-bats for a week. And then you give yourself freedom to fail.
Yeah.
And most guys are so in their own way of I need. We don't need anything. The only thing that you need to do is just try to really break it down to one task, because we don't have the ability to handle more than one.
If you're not process driven, you're going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, and this game's it's going to burn you out. It's going to burn you out because now you're not playing it for the love of the game. You're playing it for what comes with it. And we both see that, especially from like younger guys in the big leagues that got 1-2 years in the show, starting to feel comfortable, but it's all because of what comes with it. But like the guys that have been there stacking up 10 years of service time, process driven, adaptable, right? The species that survive are not the strongest, the biggest, the fastest, it's the most adaptable, right? And if you don't adapt, you die. And a part that I've read from Shoe Dog, which is by Phil Knight, great book, he says you grow or you die. And if you're not willing to grow and lean into continually buying into the fact that you're just scratching the surface, it's going to be it's not going to be fun.
Well, you can't be emotional.
You have to, at some point.
You gotta remove the emotion and realize you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Did you control what you can? How was your process? Focus on those things. If everything's life or death, if you don't get a hit,
Not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, and you're never going to reach your pinnacle as a hitter.
Which is to be free.
Yes, and anyone that acts like it's life or death if you don't get a hit, you need to remove those people from yourself.
Yeah, right. You are.
And a lot of parents, I'm not trying to be ugly when I say this, they want their son to do well, they want their daughter to do well. Obviously, we do too.
Everyone wants, want the best.
We want the best for them, but acting like it's life or death if they don't get a hit every single game is not helping your son or daughter. It is hurting them. So just support them.
Great
encourage just a process. Try to win each pitch, but do not give them a lecture or show any emotional reaction if they don't get a hit every game, because that is not going to help them, especially as they keep going up in levels. That is not helpful and is not going to help them perform any better. It's going to hurt their performance.
Yes.
Let's make that very clear.
Thank you for that message right there. A lot of parents probably listening to this, coaches listening to this, doing more harm than good when you're piling on. Nobody tries to go out there and fail, right? Mm-hmm. It's more so processing how and what to do about it. And I tell this to my players all the time, it's not a good or bad performance, it's information on how to show up tomorrow, right? Because regardless of how it went, the beauty of this game is most of the time you get an opportunity to show up tomorrow. And I say you have no control over your past, you have no control over your future, but if you want to change your future or you want to change your past, you need to show up today. And if you can consistently do that, you're going to stack up a good season. You're going to stack up a good month. It all comes from being present. And if there's like a parting message that you could give to somebody watching this or somebody that comes across this video about the swing and all the hitting, all the things that we've talked about, the A swing, what would you say?
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned about, especially the training dirty and the angles and covering the top, and the hitters realize that the long, sloppy, slow moves don't play in those environments. And they learn that doing more does not help. They learn to trim the fat off their swing and get direct and through the ball. And they learn that doing less with the moves and shortening the bat path is how you get barrel accuracy, is how you get consistent, and is how you hit the barrel more to be a better hitter. But also, that turns into slug because they're hitting the barrel more often.
Right.
And those big, long moves to try and generate things don't play in those environments. So they learn that they're doing those for power because everyone wants power right now in hitting.
Yep.
But it takes away from their consistency. It takes away from their consistency. And when you don't do that, when you don't have consistency, you're not hitting the barrel a lot, which is you're not gonna hit for power. So I think that when I put them on those angles in the machine at the top of the zone, they learn how to do less. The swing shortens up, and they're hitting for more power
by doing
less, and the effort level is under control, and they turn into a good hitter as opposed to just these long moves that don't play. So big moves doesn't guarantee power in game. It can lead to power in the cage, but if it doesn't help us in the actual game, then it doesn't matter.
Right, because again, the context of this conversation, the context of what we are obsessed with, what we live and die in this game, in this art of hitting, it's much more like an art than it is an act. It is not just like weightlifting. It requires a balance of being aggressive but relaxed, and loose but controlled, calm but relaxed but aggressive, but all these different factors, right? If it's not helping you become a better in-game hitter, it's worth reevaluating. Is this worth doing, right? And the only thing that matters at the end of the day is you being able to go into a game and have success and be ready to compete instead of having things that you don't believe in getting in your own way. The ultimate goal of hitting is to be able to hit in games, not hit PRs in the cage, not put on a show in BP. If it doesn't translate to you versus that guy trying to take food off your table, off your plate, it's not worth doing, right? And this is an important conversation about hitting. If you want to find Zen, I'll put the link to his social media on the description. If you want to work with him, reach out to him, get in contact with him. I'll do the same for me. Thank you guys for watching this video. Like and subscribe. See you on the next one.
See you guys.